Hello, my name is Matthew Weiss. I'm the lead game designer for the Singapore MIT GAMBIT Game Lab, and I was the product owner on Abandon.
And my name is Rick Eberhardt. I'm the studio manager here at the GAMBIT Game Lab, and on Abandon I was the embedded staff.
So Abandon was a project that was inspired by a project we did last year called Form. Last year, students took an automatic rigging algorithm from the CSAIL lab, and basically what that algorithm did was it took a skeleton, which is basically a 3D mesh, or excuse me, it took a 3D mesh, which is just a 3D object without any bones or animation attached to it or anything, and it would automatically create a skeleton which would then accept animation data. So you could basically take an object that looked like anything and automatically put a skeleton inside it, which could then accept animation data, which would make it dance or run or whatever. And this was a very cool technology, and they made a very cool game called Form, which we liked a lot. This year we wanted to see how we could take that automatic rigging technology, which rigs models very fast, and use it to streamline the development process, to create a game that is more like a normal game with a normal kind of design that's a little bit less experimental, but see if you can do it quickly because you're spending so much less time actually rigging 3D characters with skeletons. So we brought the students in, we gave them the algorithm, and we basically said, okay, so your goal is to make a game that uses this algorithm to create as many 3D models as possible for a game that's being done on essentially a small time frame, right? This is being done in a small span of time. So it was an 8-week project, and we wanted them to make a game in 8 weeks that involved more rigged animated 3D models than normally would have been possible in that kind of time frame. So this year we said, well, why don't you take a world filled with objects, because the goal was to rig many objects as opposed to one object with Form. So why don't you take a world that's filled with all these different inanimate objects and make them come to life? So we gave the students this design goal as sort of an inversion of what Form did.
Yeah, and so because everything comes to life, they had to create a number of different objects, and we even said at one point everyday looking objects, which as they were building, they started out building bedrooms. So you'd have beds coming to life and walking. The idea was that the legs of the bed frame would walk normally. You had traffic cones, cars. They went to a street style level. And one thing that they found as they're doing that is that even though this was supposed to be just like a technological pipeline efficiency thing, this tool, it turned out to have more of an impact on the design than they thought in the beginning. Anytime they made an object, they had to think about how the automatic rig would deform the mesh to make it look like it was walking.
One of the things that's interesting about Abandon is that it was a game that was one of only 2 3D games we've actually ever made at Gambit. And the reason why we shy away from doing 3D games is because 3D is significantly harder than 2D and harder to do well and make it look polished. 2D games, we've tried to stick with 2D games traditionally because it's just easier to control. You're not dealing with the same kinds of issues that you're dealing with most of the time. Game development has a different level of complexity when you're dealing with 3D. and doing really nice texture work, and you know, because detailed textures on a high-end 3D game are extraordinarily detailed and take a long time to do, and we just didn't have time for that. So one of the things that we really wanted to encourage on the team was getting the students to come up with a nice minimalistic art style, which would not take a long time to do, would not take a lot of work, but was very, I don't know what you'd call, artistically successful. Right, it was where the minimalism was the point, where it meant to be expressive and resonate by using as limited color palette as possible and as modest or no texturing as possible. And thankfully we had some great artists on the team, and they came up with what I think is a very nice minimalist art aesthetic for a game that was done in 8 weeks.
Yeah, and so our game is available on the GAMBIT website, and it's free to download. It's Windows only. And we'd love to see you try it.